As a child, Star Wars was always just this action-packed adventure with lightsabers and cool space wizards without much more to it. And honestly, as an adult, Star Wars is still that, but now there's also so much more to it. And the Phantom Menace shows exactly that. Revisiting this film made me realize that the action is honestly only half of the fun. The politics, the Jedi Code, and the whole situation with the Trade Federation add so much to the world building of Star Wars. The only thing that really stayed the same for me, pod racing as a kid, really cool. Pod racing as an adult, still really cool, and Ben Quadinaros is still the GOAT. So today I just want to talk about some things that really stood out to me after revisiting the Phantom Menace. For me, one of the most important things is Qui-Gon's personal moral code was really interesting to me. He keeps this balance between I follow my mission and I will still help people that need help. After now having the context from a lot more Star Wars media, I finally understand that Qui-Gon wasn't completely aligned with the Jedi Council or even the Jedi Code itself. And that was really interesting to me because as a kid the Jedi were always just these perfect protectors of the Republic, these cool lightsaber fighting peacekeepers. But now, looking back at it, the Jedi Council and the Jedi Code are honestly a big part of why the Republic eventually falls. But now that I'm talking about the Jedi, I also need to talk about Chief Palpatine. A man with a plan spanning years, a master manipulator, and honestly one of the smartest Force users in Star Wars. But in this film, he feels much more like a caring senator and trustworthy person. Ian McDiarmid really portrayed Palpatine perfect here. I think it takes a lot of skill as an actor to play a manipulative character this convincingly. But what surprised me the most revisiting the movies was how much I enjoyed the beginning of the political conflict that later leads into the Clone Wars. Seeing how both sides were slowly being manipulated without even realizing it was honestly really fascinating. And it reminded me a lot of what I enjoyed in the Clone Wars series too. And yeah, the music. We don't even need to talk much about the music. Whether it's a calm moment or a huge action scene, yes, Duel of Fates, I'm looking at you. The soundtrack is just phenomenal. John Williams absolutely cooked once again with the Phantom Menace. What also really surprised me was Obi-Wan's pretty mild reaction when Qui-Gon wanted to take Anakin as his apprentice. But after looking into it a bit more, I found out that in one of the Phantom Menace novelizations, Obi-Wan was actually way more hurt by it than the movies really show. So I was kinda like, okay, at least there was more of a reaction somewhere else, because in the movie itself, Obi-Wan still feels pretty emotionally stiff in that situation. The lightsaber fights. Now that I'm more used to the Disney era lightsaber fights, I really appreciate how much time and effort George Lucas and the actors put into making these fights feel fast, technical, and almost dance-like. Something else I really appreciated revisiting the Phantom Menace was how different the atmosphere of the prequels feel compared to the original trilogy. The galaxy feels alive, peaceful, and honestly hopeful. Coruscant is full of life, the Republic still feels functional, and even with all the corruption and political problems already starting to show, it still feels like people are actually trying to do good. And I think that's what makes the fall of the Republic so much more tragic later on, because by the time the Empire takes over, all that is gone. No political opposition, no real freedom, just fear and control under one dictator ruling the galaxy. And rewatching this film honestly made me appreciate the contrast way more. But honestly, in the end, there's just one thing that's more tragic than that. It's just so sad to see how Anakin gets treated by the Jedi. From the very beginning, he's emotional, attached, scared for his mother, excited. He actually feels like a real kid. The whole idea of don't get attached, don't be afraid, let go of your emotions was basically the start of the journey that eventually turned a scared little boy into one of the most feared villains in the galaxy. But that's something I'll save for revisiting Revenge of the Sith one day. Rewatching reminded me why I love Star Wars so much in the first place. As a kid, I loved it for the action, the lightsabers, the pod racing, and all the big epic moments. But now, revisiting it years later, I appreciate completely different things. The characters, the politics, the Jedi Order, Palpatine's manipulation, the music, and honestly just how much world building this movie adds to the Star Wars as a whole. And I think that's what makes revisiting these movies so special. You don't just rewatch them, you experience them differently depending on where you are in life. And honestly, that just makes me even more excited to revisit the rest of the Star Wars in the future. If you have any critic or tips for me, just write it in the comments. Like and subscribe. This has been another entry in the Padawan Journal. May the Force be with you.